Hey everyone, and welcome back to Found in the Garden. I hope that you are having a fantastic day. Today we are going to be talking about what to do with some of your frozen tomatoes. If you caught my tomato video, I talked about how sometimes you'll not get enough tomatoes or too many tomatoes and you can't preserve them. And so freezing them is actually a great way to kind of set them aside until later when you can process them and can them or do whatever you're gonna do with them. I froze so many tomatoes this last year. And so I went out to my freezer and I went ahead and I got some of my frozen tomatoes, and I'm just gonna make some tomato sauce. We're gonna have lasagna this week, probably some pasta. And so I'm gonna make up some tomato sauce. So I'm starting here with 3-gallon bags of tomatoes. These have been sitting here for a while because it took us a minute to set up, but you don't need to let these sit. You can just like grab them out of the freezer, break them up a little bit, and then put them right into the pot, but we'll get to that. And then I have 1 quart bag of frozen bell peppers, okay? We had a ton of bell peppers too. Most of those got frozen, some of them got dried, and frozen works great for what we're gonna do today. This is a super simple way to kind of process all of these tomatoes quickly, and you're not waiting around for things to thaw and stuff. I think you could probably do this, hold on. Okay, I think you could probably do this with a crock pot too. My crock pot is too small though. It's only like this big, and this is much larger. And this just goes in the oven, so it's pretty easy to keep track of. So 3 gallons of tomatoes right in here, just like so. I watched this lady on YouTube, and she's a vegan cook, and she does all these short videos, and she always says like so, like that, and I love that. I'm trying to stop myself from saying that. Okay, so I'm just kind of squishing these together down here to make them flat, because 3 gallons of tomatoes is actually quite a bit of tomatoes. So this is just 2 gallons of tomatoes, and as you can see, I'm not gonna fit like a 1/3 gallon in here. These are still really frozen, even though they have been thawing for a while. So I have a second one. You could do this. So I wanna be really clear about some things. These are Dutch ovens, okay? So this is a big one. I forget how big this one is, but it holds about 2 gallons of frozen tomatoes. And this is a smaller one. I got these from Costco. They're doing really well. They're holding up pretty good. I haven't treated them the best, so there's some rough spots on them, but that's like user error, I don't think it's anything to do with this. So I have this one, and I'm gonna go ahead and just dump my other one in this other pot. If you don't need this much tomato sauce, you could just do 1 or even the smaller one if it's just like 2 of you. I'm gonna make a pretty big lasagna, and then we like having tomato sauce to spare, and then I'll probably throw some tomato sauce back in the freezer just because it's already been whipped up, and I'll be able to use that like if we have company over or whatever. All right, so as you can see, these tomatoes have a ton of water in them, right? So if you look at this, you can see this tomato is super frozen. There's lots of water around it, water coming out of everywhere. This is going to create basically tomato soup, actually. All the water is gonna melt out of this, and it's gonna be too much water for your tomato sauce. So before you do very much, the first thing you need to do is go ahead and put these in the oven. I do it at about 450 degrees and let most of the water thaw off. So that's what we're gonna do right now. I add a little bit of table salt at this stage, just to kind of help start seasoning them. That was a lot of table salt, actually. That's okay, we'll add more later. So if you want, you can start putting in some of your other seasonings, but because you're pouring off all the liquid, it's just going to, like most of those seasonings are just gonna wash away. So I just wait until a little bit later. Go ahead and we're gonna put these into the oven. And then we're just using this bottom rack. It's a little bit stronger. I put the lid on to help lock in some of that heat, and throw this one in. And this other lid, that also kind of helps me see, oh, it's melted enough that the lid has set down on the bowl and it's not rised up above. All right, and I'm gonna turn this on to 450, and that's gonna take 20 minutes or so to get warm enough to have all the water thaw off, and then we'll go from there. So this recipe is great because there's not a lot of prep. The more fresh items you're using, the more prep you're going to have to do. But because we're in the middle of winter, I'm not working with very many fresh items. The tomatoes are frozen, the bell peppers are frozen. The onions, these are not our onions. Next year, or like this fall, these will be our onions. But right now, these just came from Costco. I'm just gonna take these onions, I have 2 of them here, and I'm gonna just cube them, I think. Yeah. If you like making your own vegetable broth, I don't know why I'm doing this so weirdly. If you like making your own vegetable broth or soup broth or whatever, you can save all of this and then just boil it down into a vegetable broth. Cube it, just like that. Ooh, this onion is, spicy. And then last onion, really quick. Oh, my eyes. Oh, you're about to see a grown woman cry. Maybe we'll just fast forward through this part. BRB. Onions, like I always cry. Okay, so I cleaned up from the onion because it was making me sob, like after I broke up with my first boyfriend. So I put these onions over here, and then I have one more bowl, and I'm gonna do garlic. I'm gonna do too much garlic. Most of you probably want like 1 head of garlic or half a head of garlic. But in this house, we like garlic, and so we're gonna do 2 heads of garlic. Garlic shouldn't make you cry. It also shouldn't be this difficult to get into. So the thing that I like about making your own sauce is you can really make it however you like it. If you like really garlicky sauce, you can make it really garlicky. If you like lots of basil, you can be sure to add fresh basil in there. If you, let's see, if you like cheese in your sauce, you can add that all right in, rather than buying like a can of sauce in the store that has all of the things that you love, but also things that you don't know, preservatives and things like that, that maybe aren't bad for you, but you just don't need them because you're making your own sauce. I will also say tomato sauce is one of those things you can absolutely make before you have a garden. Like if you're waiting for your garden, maybe you're doing research, or you just don't have the space, but you're dreaming about your garden, you can go to the store and get some tomatoes and make tomato sauce. And you're just gonna be so much better prepared. Like I have made tomato sauce a couple times before I had a garden. Since having a garden, I've made it so many times. I make tomato sauce about once a week now, just because I have tons of frozen tomatoes and I like it. It's fun. And it feeds my family. It means that, let's see, last week I made up a batch of tomato sauce and some veggie meat and some pasta, and I just put that in the refrigerator, all separate, not together. And then we ate that several times during the week, and it was a really fast, easy meal. Kept us from wanting to go out to eat, which is like my downfall. I don't know about any of you, but like eating out is my love language. Like I love eating out. And so any chance that I get to, I'm like, yeah, let's go out to eat. But we live like, what, half an hour from town? It is a commitment to go out to eat. And being able to just eat from home it saves us money, gas, time. So good. All right, just so you're all caught up, I'm just peeling these heads and putting them in this bowl. So I really do think meal prep, that's one of those things that learning to do before you have a garden is super valuable. The other thing that it does, and I'm saying this as someone, let's be honest, as someone who did zero meal prep ever before having a garden, and who did not really cook a lot from scratch. I did cook a bit from scratch, but it was always like super fancy meals. We went out a lot. And then when you go to plant your garden, you don't really know what you like, what you're eating. If you're doing meal planning, that's a great way to start knowing, okay, when I do have a garden, here's what needs to be in it. All right, so I went ahead and I finished peeling all of these. It went much faster once I started smashing them down to break them out of the skin, and finish that up. So we have our onions just kind of cut up into quarters. Our garlic is peeled, but that's about it. And now we're gonna check on the tomatoes. I will say it's probably been, I'm not actually sure how long, but it's been a while, maybe 20-ish minutes, like I said at the beginning. The other thing I will say is if you don't have a stone countertop, be sure to put down a hot pad. All right, so Eric is on camera today, so I'm gonna ask him to scoot in to see these. So as you can see, that is a ton of water. You can also see the salt on top. And both of these, can you see that one? Are just full of water. So that's gonna be way too much liquid for your tomato sauce. To be clear, that's really way too much liquid for tomato soup. So that is where our next little trick comes in handy. I have this pot and this. You can do this over the sink, but I like to make sure that I have a little bit of liquid left over just in case I drain too much off. So we're gonna go ahead and pour this in here. All right. And as I'm looking, these tomatoes, like this tomato right here that I'm touching right now, is still rock solid frozen. So a lot of the liquid has gone away, but there's still plenty left in here to make sure that our tomato sauce will be just the right consistency. So as you can see, like this will take you a minute. And back into that pot, where as you can see now, there's a lot less in this pot. And then we're gonna grab the other one and repeat the same process over again. All right, and there is a lot of liquid left over. Both of our pots of tomatoes have been combined into one pot, so everything we do from now on can just be put directly into this one pot, which is hot, and then just left to cook until it's done. So I'm gonna add in our green bell peppers. Again, this is just a 1 quart bag of chopped up green bell peppers, green and purple. 2 onions, all of our garlic. It already smells so good. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add in some of these different things. So parsley is something that I've just kind of been adding in. I'm not convinced it does a lot, but I feel like it does. So we'll do that. Then some Italian seasoning, maybe about 1/4 to 1/2 cup of Italian seasoning. give it plenty of seasonings. If you want a little bit extra oregano because you like a more oregano flavor, maybe 2 to 3 tablespoons of oregano. And then I'm gonna add in some bay leaves. And last but not least, because I love it, basil. Maybe another tablespoon to 2. The basil and the oregano are both in the Italian seasoning, so you're just kind of adding more of those flavors. I'm gonna go ahead and put in some more salt. Maybe an additional tablespoon or less. And we're gonna cover this back up, put it back in the oven for another 30 minutes or so. Actually, I'm gonna give this a quick stir just to make sure it kind of has a chance to work together. Good enough. Now, if you don't have fresh onion or garlic, you can use dried onions and garlic. Just a little tip. All right, we're gonna let this cook, like I said, for about 30 minutes, and we'll catch you at the next step. All right, guys, so it has been about 45 minutes to an hour actually since I last checked in with you. This has just been cooking, and actually Eric just told me a few minutes ago it smells like it's burning, so let's check and see how it's looking. Ooh. So definitely not burned, but everything in here is absolutely cooked and ready for the next step, which is going to be blending. So I'm just gonna pull out some bay leaves that I see right here on the top really quick. So the next step is we're just gonna take our Vitamix. If you have a blender, you can just use a blender. But because these tomatoes still have their skins on them, you need to really blend it up well. So make sure you have a good, strong blender. This is probably one of 3 that I'd recommend you splurge on in your kitchen is a Vitamix. It has paid for itself time and time again. Before we had a Vitamix, we actually had a Ninja blender, and it did okay, but it wasn't enough better for us to be worth the extra price that you pay. But this Vitamix, you don't even notice the tomato skins in your tomato sauce. So something you might not know about your Vitamix is it performs better when the speed is turned all the way up, when the motor is running at full speed. So you want to get whatever you're blending up to that full speed as quickly as possible, but not so fast you shoot the lid off. Oh, I did make a little bit of a mess. It's fine. I start at 1 every time. Now, one thing I will say is if you like a really chunky sauce, what you're probably gonna want to do is cut the onions up into small pieces and then lightly blend this all together rather than more of a hard blend like what I'm doing. I like a more cohesive taste, and so this is what I do. I need something to pour this into. So I'm gonna just use this other pan that we used earlier today. It smells so good. So this is definitely thicker than what most people are gonna want for tomato sauce, so just keep that in mind. We're not done yet. Okay, so we're just gonna finish blending all of this up and then we'll finish seasoning. So the one thing is, you saw me put in all of those seasonings. Garden tomatoes are very powerfully flavored. So you're gonna need probably even more seasonings than what I put in here the first time to get it up to the flavor that you like. So this is colored this way because we blended the green bell peppers in. We didn't just have red tomatoes. We had a mix of reds, purples, greens, and yellow tomatoes in here. And then also all the seasonings. So it's just a little bit of a different color than what you might traditionally find, but I think it's still really pretty and it's not off-putting. I don't think, at least. We've got our tomato sauce now, and now is the time when you taste it and decide how you like it. Something that I didn't add in that I typically do add in, this is still hot, is red pepper flakes. That just adds a little bit of zing to it, or you can do some pepper, black pepper. You can tell how hot this is. That's actually really good. Okay, so a little bit of sugar will help with the acidity problem. Start off with less and then add more. This is definitely something that you can get a little too exuberant with. With a great big pot like this, I know that I'm gonna need maybe 2 tablespoons. We'll start with 1.5 actually, tablespoons of sugar and see where we end up from there. So I'm adding black pepper and red pepper flakes to this. If you don't like black pepper for any reason, it's not something that you need. I just like the little bit of spice that it adds. I don't add a ton because my kids aren't big fans of spice, but just enough to add just a little kick into it. Maybe like a teaspoon of black pepper and maybe 2 teaspoons of red pepper flakes. Like, just not a lot at all, barely enough to, I mean, some of you are probably sitting at home laughing right now saying, she put in 2 whole heads of garlic and a teaspoon of black pepper, but just a little bit. It's your tomato sauce, make it the way you like it. And I just wanna make sure that that sugar has gotten worked well through. It's definitely something that you can taste the sugar a lot at the top, and then as you're mixing it, you're like, oh, wait, it's not in there very well, or vice versa. You get a scoop from the bottom and you don't taste very much sugar, and you add and you add and you add, and then all of a sudden you're eating candy pasta. Like a scene from Elf. All right, I'm gonna try this one more time and see where we're at. It is really good. We're gonna need a little bit more sugar. And I think I'm gonna add in just a little bit more Italian seasoning for some overall flavor and a little bit more basil. Would I be crazy if I added in more garlic? And some salt, actually. That's actually where I wanna start. So sometimes when you're tasting your food and you're thinking to yourself, oh, it needs more seasonings. Sometimes that more seasonings really is just salt. You just need something to kind of boost the seasons that are already in your dish. The other thing that I like doing about adding in more seasonings after you've blended it is it just kind of makes it look more like traditional sauce. I added like maybe 2 more tablespoons of Italian. This is definitely something, I don't have a solid recipe that I'm sticking to yet. I'm just kind of making it as I like, and you can do the same thing. You can use any fresh herbs that you have. You're gonna need a lot less of them, or more, or less will go much further with fresh. And you'll just have to play around with it, like I said, until you find something you like. I like really flavorful sauces, to be honest. But you might not. You might like just really plain tomato sauce. That's totally fine. It's your table. You have to eat what you like. The other thing I'll say is this is a little thick. This is like maybe tomato, or not tomato, but like pizza sauce. This would be great for pizza sauce. But you might want it a little bit runnier for your pasta. I'm just gonna let this kind of season. Gonna try again. That's really good. Yeah, I think we got it. All right, we're gonna let this season again, especially when you're using dried herbs. it takes a while for those flavors to kind of release from their dried form. It takes a while for the liquids to melt in and those flavors to start releasing. So letting them season for a little while just means kind of letting those flavors release, letting it kind of sit there for a minute. You don't want to add too many dried ingredients all at once, because you might find that you come back an hour later and you're like, wow, that's so much basil, and you don't understand why. Well, it was because when you added basil to taste when it was dry, then it had all this time to soak up the moisture and release even more flavor. So just letting it season for a minute just lets all of that flavor release. We might even have some pasta tonight, but it's definitely going to be great in our lasagna tomorrow. Let me know in the comments what your favorite tomato sauce recipe is with fresh or frozen tomatoes. I would love to try some of them out. If you're new here, thanks so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button, and until next time, what have you found in your garden?
Somebody's gonna say you stuck that in your mouth and then put it back into a pot.
Yeah, because this is my pot. If I was making this to give away, obviously I wouldn't do that, but this is for my family, and I birthed most of the people who are going to be eating this. So.
I'd like it on the record that you did not birth me.
No, but this is just for home use. So yes, I double dipped my spoon. If you have a problem with that, don't do that in your kitchen. But this is mine.